year is 450. You're standing at the edge of a firelit camp, and the man everyone in Rome calls the Scourge of God is about to lead you into the largest war Europe has ever seen. You feel the cold first. It always hits before anything else, that dry, biting wind that never really leaves the steppe, even in your bones. Somewhere behind you, 100 fires crackle, and the smell of roasting horse meat drifts through camp. Your bow rests against your shoulder, worn smooth from years of use. You've killed men with it. You'll kill more soon. You are a warrior in the army of Attila the Hun, the most feared man alive. Kings kneel before him. Emperors pay him not to invade. And tomorrow, you ride with him into a battle that will decide the fate of an entire continent. But before we get there, let's talk about how you got here in the first place. You were born on the open steppe, somewhere between what we'd now call Ukraine and Hungary, though back then, there were no borders, no maps, just grass stretching to the horizon in every direction. You don't remember learning to ride a horse. Nobody does. In your world, you're strapped onto a saddle before you can properly walk. By the time you're 5, you're already better on a horse than most Roman soldiers will ever be in their entire lives. Your father was a warrior, so was his father. This isn't a job you chose, it's simply what you are. There's no separate civilian life waiting for you somewhere else. Every man in your tribe who can hold a bow is a soldier, and every soldier is expected to fight when Attila calls. You're in your 20s now, old enough to have seen real battle, young enough to still have most of it ahead of you, and soon you're about to find out exactly what that means. Home, for you, isn't a place. It's whatever ground your horse is standing on today. You live in a yurt, a round tent made of felt, stretched over a wooden frame, small enough to pack onto a cart or a horse's back within the hour. Tomorrow, this exact spot might be empty grass again. Your people move with the seasons, following pasture for the herds, and you've never once slept in the same house for more than a few weeks straight. Food is simple, and it's almost always meat. Horse, mostly, sometimes sheep, sometimes whatever your last raid brought in. You drink fermented mare's milk, a sharp, slightly sour drink that gives you a bit of a buzz after a few bowls. Bread exists, but it's rare. Your people aren't farmers. Farming means staying still, and staying still isn't in your blood. To the Romans, this makes you a barbarian. Their historians write about you like you're barely human, eating raw meat off your saddle, never washing, sleeping on horseback. Some of that is exaggeration. Some of it isn't entirely wrong either. Life on the move doesn't leave much room for comfort. But what the Romans call savagery, you'd call freedom. You go where you want, you take what you need, and no emperor tells you where to live. Sickness, though, is the real enemy one Rome's legions rarely have to worry about as much as you do. No real medicine, no clean water guaranteed, and if a wound turns bad out here, there's no one coming to save you. You've already lost friends to things far quieter than a battlefield. This is the life that built you. Hard, fast, always moving. And it's exactly what makes you and every man riding beside you so terrifyingly good at war. Nobody sat you down one day and said, "Now you're a warrior." There was no ceremony, no single moment. You simply grew into it, the same way you grew taller. By age 3, you were riding alone. By 7, you were hunting small game from horseback with a child-sized bow, and missing a shot meant going hungry that night, a lesson that teaches you precision faster than any drill sergeant could. By 12, you were expected to keep up with grown men on a full day's ride, no complaints. Your bow is the real weapon here, not the sword. It's a composite bow, built from layers of wood, horn, and sinew glued together, smaller than what the Romans use, but far more powerful. And it can be fired from a moving horse at full gallop. You've spent thousands of hours learning to twist in the saddle, draw, and loose an arrow into a target the size of a man, all while your horse is sprinting beneath you. Most soldiers in the world can't do this. You've never known anything else. Armor is light when you have it at all, some leather, maybe a bit of scavenged metal if you've earned enough in past raids. Speed keeps you alive more than any breastplate does. You're not built to stand in a line and take a hit. You're built to appear where the enemy isn't ready for you, strike, and vanish before they can react. There's no formal training camp, no barracks. Your discipline comes from the tribe itself, from your elders, from the men you've grown up beside, from a simple, unspoken rule: fall behind, and you don't just embarrass yourself. You put everyone around you at risk. By the time you're old enough to ride into a real war, you're already a weapon. Attila didn't build his army from scratch. He inherited a people who were already born for exactly this. You've seen him 3 times in your life. Each time, you remember exactly where you were standing. Attila doesn't look like what the Romans describe. The writers paint him as a monster, squat, savage, barely human. But the man you've seen up close is something stranger than that. Short, yes, broad-shouldered, dark-eyed, with a presence that makes grown warriors go quiet when he walks past. He doesn't need to shout to be obeyed. Here's what surprises most people who hear about him later. Attila doesn't live like a king. A Roman diplomat named Priscus once visited the Hun camp and wrote about it, how other chieftains ate off silver plates, dressed in looted finery, draped in gold. Attila ate off a plain wooden bowl, wore simple clothes, no jewels, no decoration. While everyone else in his court flaunted their wealth, the most powerful man in Europe sat there looking like any other warrior in camp. That's exactly why men like you follow him without question. He doesn't take more than he gives. When a raid goes well, the plunder gets shared: horses, gold, captives, cattle. Loyalty isn't bought with fear alone here. It's bought with results. Attila wins, and winning means you eat well, your family is provided for, and your name earns respect in the tribe. You remember the one time he rode past your unit before a raid, years ago. He didn't stop, didn't speak to you directly, but for half a second, his eyes passed over the men in your line, like he was counting something only he could see. Then he moved on, and somehow you stood a little straighter for the rest of the day. You don't love him, exactly. That's not the word for it, but you'd follow him into anything, and soon you will. Word spreads through camp before any official order arrives. You can always tell when something big is coming. The air changes, men start checking their bowstrings twice, and the older warriors get quiet in a way that makes you nervous. This time, it's real. Attila is marching west, into Gaul, modern-day France, and he's calling every ally he has. This isn't just a Hun war party anymore. Ostrogoths, Gepids, Franks, and a dozen smaller tribes are all falling in behind him, some out of loyalty, some because refusing Attila has never gone well for anyone. By the time the army is fully assembled, you're riding alongside more men than you've ever seen in one place in your entire life. Some accounts from the time claim it numbered in the hundreds of thousands, though the real number was likely smaller. Still, it doesn't matter what the exact count was. What matters is what it feels like from where you're standing. Endless columns of riders, wagons, and herds stretching further than you can see in either direction. The march itself is brutal in its own quiet way. No enemy in sight yet, but the days are long, the horses need constant grazing, and feeding an army this size means stripping the land bare as you pass through it, villages abandoned or raided for supplies. You've learned that half of war isn't fighting. It's just moving, waiting, and making sure you and your horse survive long enough to reach the part where the fighting actually happens. Rumors move faster than the army does. Word reaches camp that a Roman general named Aetius, a man who once lived among the Huns himself, who speaks your language, who understands exactly how you fight, is gathering his own alliance to meet you. Visigoths, Romans, Franks, who chose the other side. Old enemies setting aside their grudges for one reason: to stop Attila before he reaches the heart of Gaul. You don't know it yet, but you're marching toward one of the largest battles the ancient world will ever see. And when the two armies finally meet, near a place history will remember as the Catalaunian Plains, nothing about this war is going to feel small anymore. You've never seen a battlefield like this. From horseback, it stretches in every direction, a wide plain with a ridge cutting across the middle, and both armies pouring onto it, wave after wave, until the ground itself seems to disappear under men and horses. The noise hits before anything else. Thousands of hooves. Horns blaring orders you can barely hear over your own heartbeat. Men shouting in half a dozen languages, Hunnic, Gothic, Latin, Frankish, all of it blending into one wall of sound. You grip your bow tighter than you need to. Your hands already know what to do. Your mind just needs to catch up. The fight for the ridge comes first, and it's ugly. Whoever holds the high ground controls the whole battle, and both sides know it. You watch Visigoth riders, men fighting for Theodoric. The king allied with Rome slam into your line trying to take that ridge, and for a moment, everything is just chaos, dust, screaming horses. The dull crack of weapons, meeting shields, meeting flesh. You do what you were trained to do since childhood. Loose an arrow, wheel your horse, loose another. You don't have time to see if it lands. There's no room out here for fear the way there is around a campfire. Your body just moves faster than thought, the way it has 10,000 times before in practice. Except this isn't practice. Somewhere in the chaos, word spreads that King Theodoric has fallen, thrown from his horse and killed in the crush of the fighting. It should feel like victory. It doesn't, not really, not with this many bodies already on the ground, not with the sun starting to dip and no clear end in sight. By nightfall, neither side has truly won. Aetius and the Romans hold their ground. Attila pulls his forces back to the wagons, forming a defensive ring, ready to fight again if he has to. But the attack doesn't come. The other side, exhausted and wary of losing more men, lets him withdraw. You survive the day. Many beside you don't. And as you ride back toward camp under a sky turning dark, you understand something the history books will spend centuries arguing about. This wasn't the legendary crushing victory people expected from Attila. It was something messier. A battle so brutal that both sides simply stopped, bled out, and walked away. You survive. You ride back with what's left of Attila's army, exhausted, half your unit gone, but alive. There's no time to process what just happened, no counseling, no rest. You bury your dead, tend to your wounds, and within weeks, you're back on the steppe, back to the only rhythm of life you've ever known. Attila doesn't stop either. He pushes into Italy the very next year, and Rome trembles at the thought of him again. But his story ends quickly after that. In 453, just 2 years after the battle you survived, Attila dies suddenly in his sleep. Some accounts say from a burst blood vessel on his wedding night. Others whisper poison. No one knows for certain. The man who terrified an empire dies quietly, with no enemy sword anywhere near him. And without him, everything falls apart almost overnight. His sons fight each other for power instead of standing together, and within a few short years, the empire he built with fear and loyalty simply dissolves. The tribes that once rode behind him as one unstoppable force scatter back into dozens of smaller, quarreling groups. You survived one of history's great battles, riding for one of history's most feared men. And within a few years, the whole world you fought for barely exists anymore. It's easy to read a name in a text and move on. It's a lot harder to imagine actually living it, the cold, the hunger, the loyalty, or the fear. If you enjoyed stepping into this life, we will drop you into a different army, a different commander, a different point in history you've only ever read about. Subscribe for more.